Hey guys, my name is Nick, and do I have a movie for you today. Color Out of Space is a sci-fi film directed by Richard Stanley, and it's based on a short story by H.P. Lovecraft. First and foremost, this is a Nicolas Cage movie, so you've been warned. But it's about a family living in the sticks as their lives are affected in all sorts of different ways after a meteorite crash lands in their front yard. All kinds of strange events occur and things get freaky, silly, and slimy. Man, I don't even know how to talk about this movie because it is such a wild trip. I don't even know where to begin. I went into this movie without having seen a trailer. I was not familiar with the source material. And it took me on a ride. That is putting it mildly. I don't want to spoil anything. I'm going to keep this as completely spoiler-free as possible. And I'm just going to give you a little taste of what this movie was like, because the only way that I can describe it is that it's like if Hereditary and The Thing had a baby, and then if that baby had a baby with The Blob, and then if that baby did acid. That's what Color Out of Space is like. This film is gorgeous, even when it gets disgusting. The use of color in this movie is just so visually appealing, and the way that the production design is paired with the cinematography puts this whole movie on a different level. Clearly, director Richard Stanley has an eye for the medium, and I will admit, I am the type of viewer that can totally get behind a project if it has the aesthetic that just seems suitable to my liking, and this aesthetic is everything. At first I was a little bit disappointed with the special effects in the film because I thought they looked a little cheap, and then I learned that this movie was made for only $6 million, which is super low budget considering what they managed to pull off, especially with the practical effects used in this movie. Again, I'm not gonna get into it, but I will just say, without giving away any of the monstrosities that you will see on screen, it is science fiction, is what it is. Now, with all that good stuff out of the way, let's talk about Nicolas Cage, because I know I don't have to describe him to you, but he's just an interesting character, right? He's an Academy Award-winning actor who has been relegated to some direct-to-Redbox type of movies over the last 10 plus years, and while he is a talented performer, he's kind of been reduced to these over-the-top, ridiculous performances that audiences have known to be reliably hilarious. But I would say that the biggest mistake that Color Out of Space makes is by leaning so heavily into the Nicolas Cage-isms. There were so many different times throughout the movie where Nicolas Cage would just go into outburst mode, and he seemed to be completely going off script and doing just weird Nicolas Cage stuff, and for a while I thought that it was a creative choice that was part of all of the weird effects that the meteorite was having on all of the characters, but the sort of things he was saying and the sort of things he was doing was so not really in line with other parts of his dialogue that just made me think this was, let's go full Nicolas Cage for the hell of it, and I don't really think it was a smart decision at all. What I will say though is that it is hilarious. This does happen to be a really funny as well as crazy out there movie, and normally I have a problem with comedy and horror when it doesn't have that proper tonal balance, but somehow director Richard Stanley manages to make this both over the top and gonzo and also really grounded and horrifying. You can go into this ready to have a fun experience, or you can be swept up in the sci-fi madness, but either way, this is the perfect midnight movie. I feel like I got lucky because I saw this with a pretty decent crowd. People were laughing their asses off, they were yelling at the screen, they were freaking out. It was such a fun time at the movies. I am so pleasantly surprised to say that there is a movie that came out in January that is immediately going onto my best of the year list. I'm going to give Color Out of Space a 3.5 out of 5. I do think it's narratively weak in some spots, and that it really does feel like it is based on a short story, and that it plays out kind of like a modern fable, which can be interesting at times. However, I do think the movie is a little bit longer than it needs to be for what it does, and ultimately, the Nicolas Cage aspect of it all just kind of detracts from the seriousness of the film. What did you guys think of Color Out of Space? I really want to know what other people have to say about this one, because it is wild. Thank you so much for watching this video. I greatly appreciate it. Feel free to comment below with your thoughts, like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel so I can see you in my next video.